This past Thursday, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan joined the chorus of several other governors that recognized that the 2-year COVID pandemic is effectively over. And he called for an end to the mask mandates. Mike, even governors in heavily blue states like New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, and New York have called for the end of the mask mandates. Hogan is an unusual company here, but is it time for us to do away with our masks?
I think we're certainly close. I don't know if the pandemic is over. Hopefully we're on the verge of making it endemic. Obviously, it's not going away. We're going to continue to have COVID in some capacity, but clearly we're getting to vaccination rates with Omicron and people having exposure to that. We're certainly in the ballpark. I just saw prior to getting on this reporting that the State Board of Education responded to Governor Hogan by saying that each school district had the discretion once they achieved 80% vaccination rates within their schools or within their community. I think it's still good for us to have some benchmarks. I think obviously though, if we're going to have benchmarks, then we should probably adhere to those benchmarks, which has been a challenge, I think, in Montgomery County, that we're at 85% plus vaccination, and yet we're still not past the masks. And so I think we're getting close. And I think it obviously changes from community to community given levels of vaccination rates. But I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm not sure it's a train right now, which is kind of cool.
Well, we would welcome a bright light at the end of the tunnel. So, Mark, Governor Hogan also called for the end of mask mandates in schools, and Mike was just commenting on that as well. But predictably, County Executive Mark Elrich responded that it was just too soon. Why is the county executive so reluctant to take this step?
Well, candidly, I think part of it is this unfortunate politicization that has taken place over a lot of these issues. And therefore, Montgomery will probably be the last county standing in terms of dropping it, even as you've mentioned, a number of other blue jurisdictions have already dropped it. You know, it's really unfortunate. We've talked a lot about the science of all of this, and unfortunately, all too often, what we've confused is reliance on experts, the best judgment that experts had based on the information they had at a particular time for the science. And that's not precisely the same thing. And as a result, I'm afraid that the credibility of experts or science as expressed by experts has really declined a lot during this COVID, because that distinction just has not been made.
Well, I think what's more significant also is the fact that the public, I think, is suffering from mask fatigue. There seems to be in all of the general polling a great desire to do away with masks on the part of most people, and they certainly want to do away with mask mandates. They don't. I think what the polls are showing is that if you feel uncomfortable and you want to wear a mask, you should be allowed to. But if not, let me live my life the way I want to. Mike, what do you think about all of that?
No, I think we're certainly getting to that point. We've been wearing masks for 2 years. Although, and I think it's interesting. I know that there's a general frustration, and I don't particularly like wearing my mask. That being said, it's become kind of a state of nature. And so I was really interested. I walked down the street the other day, and people were even outside, and everyone had their mask on because it's just become kind of a way that we operate. And so I don't think it's. I'm struck by the people who have taken this profound disliking and notion that I can't believe I have to wear a mask. That being said, sure, I think we're past a point of having to mandate this, and I think people are frustrated and want to be able to move to a point where I no longer have to wear a mask. But I don't think it's the be all and the end all that some have made it to be.
So Mark, I think what the mask has become the symbol for most people. I mean, what was reflective a week or so, 2 weeks ago in the Johns Hopkins study is that the actual shutdown and lockdown of our communities had really a de minimis effect on the spread, on halting the spread of COVID. And I think people will, start to read things like that. They see that Omicron was contagious, whether you were vaccinated, triple vaccinated, wore your masks, or wore a tent when you walked around. So has the public attitude changed? And is it the public's the political science. We got an election year coming up.
Right.
Is that the real issue?
Well, I mean, you put your finger on that. All of this has triggered a considerable amount of skepticism. Again, this notion that the science dictated particular responses when things change. We learn new data, more information came in. That Johns Hopkins, I'm surprised that Johns Hopkins study has not gotten even more attention than it has. They're a very credible institution. That is pretty compelling evidence.
I think it's really interesting though, Mark, you raise a really good point that we've really gotten to a point where people are just, you have to be right or wrong. And the challenge with something like this is we know more as we proceed. And as we learn more, we should make better, more informed decisions. And yet we've tried to take this approach of undermining the credibility of people who are trying to make decisions and lead us on a pathway. And I think that's one of the things that we are going to suffer from a long time.
Right. Well, thank you guys. I mean, I think we're all anxious to see the end of the COVID pandemic and hopefully the end of the lockdowns and the mandates.